Can you please tell us about the disabled bill, parking bill?
Sure. And let me take a wee bit of time so we can have a conversation about this, although I'm sure you've got more questions about it. But basically, it arose a long time ago when a constituent came to me and I was horrified at what was happening to her. He was disabled. He had, a disabled sticker on his car. He was part of the Blue Badge scheme. He had a white disabled bay outside his front door, and it was a courtesy bay, and I didn't realise there was a difference between them. And he fell out with his neighbour, and his neighbour deliberately parked in his disabled parking bay, which meant that this guy couldn't get out of his car. Right? He couldn't park in his street close enough to his home that he could get out of his car and walk to his home. Okay? And I was horrified that somebody could do that to somebody else. But I was even more horrified because my response was, well, let's get the police involved, let's get the council involved. And I discovered that they could do nothing. Because this was a courtesy thing, there was nothing that those agencies could do to stop his neighbour from parking in his bay. We even went to the extent of getting the local newspaper involved to try and embarrass this neighbour into leaving this man's parking bay alone, and even that didn't work. Okay, so that was the first example, and I was thinking about what do you do about this. Then there was a second example where it was a woman locally who runs an organisation for pensioners, and she herself is disabled, and she would complain about supermarket car parking. And I don't know if you've stopped for any length of time and kind of watched what I would call the young men in white vans, who will park in disabled parking bays without a thought for the consequence of it, and run in to buy a packet of cigarettes, a newspaper, whatever it is, and it's for their own convenience. Right? And the best way I can illustrate this is when I did a radio interview at 7 o'clock in the morning outside my local Asda. There was nobody about, because who goes shopping at 7 in the morning? Right? So there was nobody there. The entire car park was free, and we parked right next to the disabled parking bays. Okay, and it was raining, as it does in Scotland all the time. Bearing in mind that the entire car park was free, 2 people, both in white vans, both young men, parked in the disabled parking bays. And the radio interviewer rushed out to interview them because he couldn't believe this with the entire car park empty. And they just didn't care. They just didn't care. It was convenient, they weren't annoying anybody, and yet he put to them, and this is where I think there is a lesson to be learned by us all. We don't understand the consequences for somebody who is disabled of not actually getting a disabled space. Okay? In some occasions, if you've got a wheelchair, you need the extra space at either side to open out. So even if the parking space might be near to the front door of the supermarket, the shop, or your home, or whatever, unless you've got that extra space, then you just cannot get out. But for a lot of people, to have those disabled spaces full meant they drove round and round and round, and in some cases, this person that I spoke about earlier ended up going home because they were unable to do their shopping. Now, if the majority of able-bodied people knew that, then that process of educating them into the consequences, I think, would be a positive one. But there will always be some who think it's their God-given right, because they're so selfish, to just go and park there. Okay? And I think it was somebody from the Fair Deal group who gave me, I think, the most wonderful kind of line on this that just hits people in terms of realising things, which was, if you want my disabled parking bay, then please have my disability too. And I kind of think that just sums it up in a nutshell. So that's the background as to why I thought we need to do something to change this. And then I started the process quite a while ago of thinking through how we would actually do that, because it's quite a complicated process. But if somebody asks me the question, I'll tell you more about the process later.
How long have you been